Welcome into Redacted on this Thursday. So glad to have all of you here. Natalie is traveling today, so you are stuck with the men on the show today as we look at Moscow on fire. Russia vowing a massive response just a short time ago. Sergei Lavrov and the Russian Duma saying an escalation, massive and violent attacks will hit Ukraine. This all comes as Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, slamming Zelensky for lying. So what is exactly happening right now? Will there be any kind of a ceasefire or any kind of a truce? Zelensky's been saying that at the G7 and then launches, along with NATO coordination, these attacks on Moscow. So we will bring you the very latest on that. Plus, where's J.D. Vance been? Where's this guy been that's suddenly showing up now criticizing Israel, telling them that they don't need to kill his words, kill their way out of every conflict, and telling them, how dare you criticize the United States government when almost everything that you have is because of us. On top of that, Israel seems prepared, if you listen to Benjamin Netanyahu, to scuttle any kind of peace agreement with Iran, that we are going to continue doing what we're doing, the Greater Israel Project inside of Lebanon and Gaza, etc., etc. Also, we're going to look at the greatest COVID cover-up. Senator Ron Johnson calling on the mainstream media for arguably the greatest scandal of our lifetimes, how they knew all of the adverse events that were occurring as a result of these vaccines, and they did nothing inside the federal government, and they covered it up, and they hid it. So we're talking about all of that, plus Canada. So I don't know if you saw Mark Carney caught on a hot microphone yesterday, basically sucking up to President Trump, but then also admitting that the future of the world is in Europe, and now wants to basically hand over Canada's sovereignty to the EU and wants to be a part of it in a much bigger way. So we're going to look at all of the money that's flowing from Canada into Ukraine today and handing over Canada's sovereignty. Go ahead.
I saw an article today. I can't remember where it was posted. I'll have to look for it after. But it was basically a piece that was trying to mirror the Iran-U.S. conflict with Ukraine, saying like Ukraine is now coming out of this the strongest country in Europe, and they're like the basically. And I was just like, what?
What? You have no country left. You have no country left. 2 million individuals killed. You have no. You literally wiped away an entire generation of young men. Gone. And you've lost your entire eastern portion of your country. Had you stopped this a long time ago and had an agreement with Turkey and didn't let Boris Johnson scuttle those peace plans, you know, you might still have the Donbass. You might still have Donetsk and Luhansk. And now you don't. How would they come out stronger? And by the way, if Russia does, of course, grab Odessa, then you're going to be a landlocked country, what's left of you. And also you've mortgaged your entire future to the IMF and the World Bank. So how are they coming out stronger at all? That's what I would love to know. That's very interesting.
Yeah, that was why I saw that headline. I was like, no?
No, not quite. All right, so we're going to get to all of that. We got some great guests lined up for you on the show today. But first, I used to think a mattress was just furniture until you get a ghost bed. Until you try a ghost bed, you're not going to believe it. It's unbelievable. And when you wake up, you're going to feel refreshed. I used to have some like a lot of upper shoulder pain, neck pain. Gone as a result of trying the ghost bed mattresses. These things are, in fact, serious health equipment. These aren't just beds. They build mattresses like furniture. So if you're waking up stiff, tossing and turning, sleeping hot, even reaching for a pain reliever before bed, hoping that tonight will be different, that's not aging. That could be your mattress talking. Here's another thing I love about Ghost Bed. You're going to get 101 nights to try it at home. And if you don't feel the difference, you can send it back risk-free. So try it. Try it for 101 nights and not stop waking up stiff, tossing and turning, sleeping hot. And they are offering our audience their lowest prices of the season plus an extra 10% off if you use that link on your screen, ghostbed.com/redacted, ghostbed.com/redacted. Use the promo code redacted to get 10% off their best deal of the season for our audience. So our thanks to them for supporting the show. Well, just a short time ago, massive attacks across Moscow, and residents there in the city were stunned to see over 200 different drones striking oil refineries, civilian infrastructure, apartment complexes all over the city. Also, air defenses from the Russian side firing and destroying many of these drones as they are coming in. But here you can see them hitting apartment complexes. A number of individuals have been injured. No reports of any deaths at this point. At least 17 people wounded after they This is one of the largest scale drone raids since this war began. Air defenses shot down at least 194 unmanned aerial vehicles. So 194 of them shot down. Looks like maybe 7, 8 of them got through. Not really clear on that. Here, take a look at this map so you can see where. And look at this black smoke. So residents saying because the city of this oil refinery covered in black smoke for hours after these oil refineries targets were hit. Take a look at this map. You can see here the Moscow oil refinery and where a number of these strikes struck across Moscow today. Dave DeCamp is the news editor of antiwar.com, host of Anti-War News. He's been tracking this. He's also been watching very closely what's unfolding between Iran and the United States and Israel. We'll get to that after a break. But first, Dave, great to see you. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, Clayton, thanks again for having me back. Good to be here.
My pleasure. So what is your reporting showing about you're hearing from the Russian side now, from the Russian Duma and Sergei Lavrov speaking on behalf of the president of Russia, Vladimir Putin, that violent and massive attacks will strike Ukrainian targets. So and Russian Duma also calling on President Putin for some kind of a massive response here.
Yeah, well, I think that's an important point. When it comes to these Ukrainian drone attacks inside Russia, it really increases the pressure on Putin and the Russian government to escalate even more in Ukraine. And we've kind of seen this pattern over the past few months of pretty major. There's been a lot of big Ukrainian drone attacks. Civilian casualties have really gone up. In Luhansk, there was a college that was hit and 21 students were killed last month. And in response to that, Russia really ramped up the bombardment of Kiev. And they've been saying that they're going to do more. And then now we see this today. And, you see kind of the psychological impact of this black smoke. And there is black rain falling on Moscow, on the capital of Russia. So I think we should expect to see another escalation in Russia's attacks. And you mentioned the attacks on the capital and the Moscow region. According to the Russian Defense Ministry, a total of 555 Ukrainian drones were shot down across Russia. At least one person was killed in Rostov in the south. So this was a major attack. And, we've seen similar scale, but this one is particularly big. And I would expect, the next big potential Russian escalation, something that they talked about doing after the attack in Luhansk last month, is firing the Oreshnik hypersonic missile. I believe recently they fired maybe 1 or 2, but using those to go after the underground military headquarters in Kiev, where is known to be, U.S. and NATO military officers helping Ukraine direct this war and carry out these drone attacks inside Russia. That's another key detail here, is that this is all supported by the U.S. and NATO. And to the Russians, they're not just under attack by Ukraine, but also NATO.
Right. That's a key piece of this, right? This is not, you're not launching over 500 drones that aren't even really being built by Ukraine. They're being supplied, created by Western governments. And the telemetry targeting of these drones comes from NATO or comes from Western sources. This is not Ukraine.
Yeah, and we've kind of seen this dual track over the past few months of an increase in the attack on the oil refineries in Russia. This has been happening really across Russia. And on the NATO side of things, they've stepped up their seizure of oil tankers carrying Russian oil. We just saw the British do that in the English Channel. In France, I believe they've seized like 4 or 5 over the past year. So it's kind of a double attack. Sanctions and the seizures along with these strikes on the oil refineries.
So there's also big pushback. Zelensky was at the G7, shows up there, of course, presumably to ask for more money, as always. A short time ago, Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, had some harsh words for Zelensky. We go through these patterns, right? Where he's at the White House and President Trump dresses him down, says that he has no cards. We are in control here, you're not. Then a few months later, he's invited back, and it's whole charade, and now he seems like he's on the outs again. But here was Marco Rubio a short time ago talking about these security guarantees, and he called him out. He just said Zelensky's lying to the world right now. Listen.
The U.S. tells Zelensky that security guarantees depend on withdrawal from Donbass.
That's a lie. And I saw him say that, and it's unfortunate he would say that because he knows that's not true, and that's not what he was told. What he was told is the obvious. Security guarantees are not going to kick in until there's an end to a war, because otherwise you're getting yourself involved in the war. Okay, what is a security guarantee? It is troops that are willing to step in and secure. If you put that in place now, that means you're injecting yourself in the war. What he was told very clearly, and he should have understood it, is that the security guarantees come only after there is an end to the war. But that was not attached to unless he gives up territory. I don't know why he says these things. They're just not true.
What is the U.S. position on Donbass?
We've told the Ukrainian side what the Russians are insisting on. We're not advocating for it. We've explained it to them. It's their choice to make. It's not for us to make for them. We've never told them they have to take it or leave it. The role we have played is to try to figure out.
Try to unplug that. So they don't have any cards here. It's not up. It's not up for us to say anything about what happens in the Donbass at this stage. What is he playing at here? What is Zelensky playing at here?
Well, what's kind of interesting is, I see that as an admission from Zelensky that he knows the only way to end the war is to cede that territory in the Donbass that he still controls. I mean, that's what my takeaway from it, saying that the U.S. would only provide security guarantees if he does that, because he realizes that that's what he's got to do to end this conflict. And then, that's a whole nother issue, is the security guarantees. That was kind of the big two sticking points when there have been negotiations, is the territory in the Donbass and also what kind of security guarantees Ukraine wants, and the stuff that Macron and Starmer and the NATO leaders have been pushing is a troop deployment to Ukraine, and these things would just not be acceptable to Russia. So as long as they're still insisting on these types of security guarantees, I mean, I don't see this ending in any kind of negotiated manner.
How many men? I mean, and this is kind of an esoteric question. How many men does Ukraine have left to fight?
I don't know the answer to that question. I'm not sure what the real casualty number is, but they're certainly running out of men, and we see reports from the Russian Defense Ministry. I mean, they're always claiming very high casualty numbers that they're inflicting on the Ukrainians, but that's something and myself included, that we don't really see much coverage of, is like the actual battles on the front line, because a lot of men on both sides are getting killed every day. And it's just a real tragedy that after over 4 years, it's been going on now longer than World War I. This just continues.
You look at this, the military movements right now by Russia, because you hear, obviously there are plenty of people inside of Russia who are sort of fed up and have been trying to push Putin. There's definitely war hawks that want Putin to like gloves off and go crazy inside of Ukraine, sweep into Odessa, across the Dnieper River, seize as much as they can. But there's been enormous amount of restraint on the Russian side. When you hear from Sergei Lavrov that there will be violent and massive attacks coming against Ukraine, you mentioned a couple of key areas, maybe underground bunkers and otherwise. What do you think that would look like? It's been a very slow sort of war of attrition, taking these towns, these villages, like week by week by week for years now.
Yeah, and I mean, I think, I've heard Lavrov say, there's going to be strong responses before, but he's usually relatively measured in his kind of rhetoric, and this does seem to be like something bigger here, what he is saying. And I mean, one thing that happened after that attack in Luhansk last month, Russia put out this notice telling Western countries to evacuate their diplomats and other personnel in Kiev. And what I think that really was a warning to get their military personnel out of these underground military headquarters. And, they also talk about targeting the decision-making centers, though I've seen Russian officials say that doesn't mean like the parliament or Zelensky's residence or anything like that. What they're talking about are these underground military commands. And I mean, this, I guess, would involve, pretty major missile strikes to try to get underground targets. I think we would see some serious destruction. I mean, we've already seen some of that, but I think just at a bigger scale. when it comes to the strikes on Kiev.
What do you make of some of these reports about games being played? We've seen, these are anecdotal, Ukrainian soldiers admitting some of the games that are being played in terms of almost, I don't want to say like Running Man style killing of these soldiers, where there are bets being made inside the Ukrainian government about how these battles would unfold, treating these soldiers as if they're beyond cannon fodder, but they're really almost like Running Man style betting tools for the oligarchs, the individuals, and the deeply corrupt politicians inside of Ukraine. I know this is a tough question, but have you been able to uncover any truth about that?
No, I mean, I just read some reports about that. I don't really know, the extent to which that's true. But I if it is, I mean, that's incredibly dark. But it is essentially, like Zelensky. The reason why he didn't sign a deal with Russia yet since Trump came in is because he knows if he cedes the Donbass and whatever else it takes to end the war, that's going to be it for him politically. And his legacy is going to be this war and kind of losing this territory. And I guess that's enough of a motive for him to keep getting these men killed on the front lines. Where else is this going to go? What other direction is this war going to go in? Yes, they can launch a lot of drones into Russia. They can kind of keep it a slow slog for Russia on the front lines. But there's just no, and I mean, even Trump has said this, that, as long as this thing goes on, they're just going to slowly lose that territory anyway. So why are you doing this? Why are you keep sending people into this meat grinder? And I know in Europe, apparently, there's a lot of Ukrainian refugees, military age, and more of the countries want to send them back, send them into that meat grinder. And for what? What is going to be accomplished dragging this war on for another few more years?
I guess I should be specific, and I'll point to this post here, and you can comment or not about it. But the father of a killed Ukrainian soldier revealed the truth about about the online battles and death bets, as he called it, to find his missing son in the Ukrainian armed forces. His father conducted an investigation. He learned that the battle was being broadcast online for money. The command had made broadcasts typical and routine, and viewers from all over the world were placing bets on the survival of Ukrainian soldiers, like these safaris for foreigners. It sounds insane. They said that his son was in captivity with memory loss, and of course we know that the Ukrainian military has been hiding death numbers, also hiding. We would reported here on the show, and mothers storming government offices in Ukraine demanding answers about their quote-unquote missing son. They're labeled missing so that they don't have to receive death benefits, when in fact they know that they were killed, but they're labeled as missing in action. So anyway, I just wanted to point out more specificity on that. Any comment on that at all?
Yeah, I think what I read was different. I don't remember the details, but if there's truth to that, that is really sick stuff. And I know, recently, this was maybe a few months ago, the wife of a soldier on the front lines posted pictures on social media of her husband and other soldiers that he was with on the front. And they looked like, kids in Gaza did last year, like just completely skin and bone because they weren't getting resupplied. They didn't have any food. They were starving on the front lines. And then after those pictures were posted, there was enough outrage that they started sending drones, like carrying food to them. But it goes to show you they don't really have much concern for the lives of their people that they're sending into this war.
For sure. Dave, please stick around. We want to talk about the Iran deal, what's going on with Israel, how much of this is going to collapse here as we head into the weekend. There have been predictions we'd be 96 hours before this deal collapsed. We're nearing that 96-hour mark for sure. So stick around for that, Dave. Dave DeCamp from antiwar.com is joining us today. So great to have Dave here. We're going to talk about the Iran deal and Israel trying to end this peace deal. We've heard from now Benjamin Netanyahu this morning, as well as J.D. Vance. Like, where has this guy been? Who kept J.D. Vance in a closet? Suddenly his gloves are off, criticizing Israel for trying to scuttle this deal. We'll talk about that. But first, do you owe any back taxes or have unfiled tax returns? Well, we partnered with our friends over at the Tax Network USA. Because if you've ever filed every year, but you still keep owing, you might be a business owner with messy books and a balance that you can't afford. Maybe you're pulling money out of a 401k or something like that. Well, your balance is not going down. Penalties continue to grow. And that's why and interest compounds, by the way, it's not going away. That's why you need to give our friends a call at Tax Network USA. The IRS is not waiting. The IRS is enforcing collections through wage garnishment, bank levies, property seizures. They can even file for you without your consent. This is where Tax Network USA comes in. 15 years in business, there hasn't been a tax case that they haven't seen or resolved. They specialize in tax controversies and help taxpayers nationwide get back on track by resolving back taxes and unfiled returns once and for all. They can do the same for you, and they've helped thousands of people. Their team has resolved over $1 billion in tax debt. So don't wait for the IRS letter to show up at your house or a frozen bank account. Give them a call, 1-800-958 that's 1,000. 1-800-958-1000 to get a free consultation. It's totally free. Or just go to the website tnusa.com/redacted. The website is tnusa.com/redacted. All right, get your questions in now here in the chat room. Any questions you guys have for Dave? We'll try to answer some of those here as well. And so please get in your questions now. All right. Well, just a front page story on antiwar.com a short time ago. Netanyahu reaffirms that Israel won't withdraw from Lebanon despite the U.S.-Iran MOU. Of course, the peace agreement, which was signed officially by both sides yesterday. Israel being marginalized. Maybe this is like a toddler throwing a tantrum right now because we weren't consulted in this, and we're going to continue our Greater Israel project into Lebanon and Gaza, and well, that's going to scuttle the entire peace deal, as Iran has said. We now know CENTCOM has officially removed the blockade, at least according to them, from the Strait of Hormuz. And a short time ago, Chairman Wicker, the U.S. Senator on the Senate Armed Services Committee, you can start to see the lines being drawn here. The neocons, Democrats, all showing up right now on Fox News to talk about how bad this Iran deal is. Well, here's Senator Wicker's statement. We are at a moment that will define President Trump's legacy. His instincts have been to finish the job he started in Iran, but he's being ill-advised to pursue a deal that would not be worth the paper it's written on. Our commander-in-chief needs to allow America's skilled armed forces to finish the destruction of Iran's conventional military capabilities and then reopen the Strait of Hormuz. But wait a minute, last week CENTCOM told us that the Strait of Hormuz was open. Totally open, and that we control it. And then President Trump at the G7 admitted that if we didn't get a peace deal in place, there would be, quote, bedlam, because the strait was closed. What's the truth? And then CENTCOM today tells us now the blockade from the U.S. side is being removed. It's all theater. It's all theater, which brings me to this next piece of theater, which is J.D. Vance today at the podium, looking impressive, basically telling Israel to go pound sand. How dare you criticize this peace deal? Don't you remember who funds your entire government? Watch.
What I will say, and this does bother me, is that you've seen people within Bibi's cabinet who have come out and attacked the deal and in some ways very personally attacked the President of the United States. And I guess my message to them would be twofold. Number one, Donald J. Trump is the only head of state in the entire world who is sympathetic to the nation of Israel at this moment in time. And he happens to be the head of state of the world's superpower. If I was in the cabinet of the Israeli government, I might not be attacking the only powerful ally that I have anywhere left in the entire world. And the second message I would give to some of those cabinet members, Bibi, to his credit, has not gone down this path, but to some of these cabinet members in Israel who are attacking the President of the United States, the other thing that I would say is that over the last 3 months, 2/3 of the defensive weapons that have protected your homeland have been built by American hands and paid for by American tax dollars. The problem for Israel is not Donald J. Trump. And anybody in Israel who thinks their biggest problem is the president of the United States needs to wake up and smell the reality of the situation that country is in. Thank you all.
Okay. Where's that guy been? Where's that guy been? Smacking down Benjamin Netanyahu and Israeli cabinet members? All right. Okay. But again, it's all theater, right? Because this is like the positioning of J.D. Vance right now. Dave DeCamp joins us once again from antiwar.com to talk about all of this and more. Dave, welcome back. What do you make of this positioning about J.D. Vance? And we'll get into the BB side of things in a moment. But he's going to like a separate podcast now saying that, or maybe it was the New York Times opinion interview or something where he said, you know, Israel can't continue to kill its way out of every disagreement it has. Whoa, like where was this guy?
Yeah, and I like, you know, what you said earlier that it does seem like theater. And I'm trying to wrap my head around what's happened over the past few days. It's been just kind of a total 180 from President Trump. And all this stuff he's been saying at the G7, just going against all the narratives and justification that himself and his administration have been putting out about the war. And I guess, you know, the president is realizing that he really had no military option to get himself out of this. So he has now quickly decided to actually, you know, give things to Iran that I didn't think he was actually willing to do. And now J.D. Vance, it's very strange, you know, the whole thing with Vance. Apparently this is part of his book tour, all of these interviews he's been doing and like the timing of it. And so he had some tough words there for Israel, as you saw, for specific Israeli ministers, Smotrich, Ben-Gvir, and, you know, in some of the other interviews that he did. But, you know, that story from us that you pulled up earlier about Netanyahu saying that they're not going to pull out of Lebanon. The thing that I haven't seen from all of this tough talk from Vance and also President Trump is that I haven't seen them say Israel has to withdraw from Lebanon. And Iran is maintaining that for this thing to stick, for this MOU to work, it can't just be like a declared ceasefire in Lebanon. There needs to be a withdrawal, because if Israel continues that occupation, the war is going to continue. The attacks have continued. I know at least 3 people were killed in southern Lebanon today. And so it seems like they're trying to draw this line at Israel bombing Beirut when not really addressing, you know, the war in South Lebanon, which has been, over 1 million people displaced, thousands killed, just really horrific. So, you know, it's nice to see, I guess, this change in tone. But until we see like some real consequences for Israel and a real effort to actually end that war in Lebanon, which, as Vance says, is totally supported by the U.S. military aid and other things, then I don't know if this really means that much.
It doesn't seem like it does. I mean, friend of the show, Brendan Weichert, earlier this week he said 96 hours he believed that this would last and that this thing would fall apart. He is a cynic. He is definitely a glass half empty, or I am a glass half full kind of person. I think you are as well. But it seems like if Israel is not going to play along with this, do we know from the Iranian side specifically? I mean, is that like their red line? Or is there some movement where they would allow southern Lebanon to be occupied by Israel?
I mean, I thought maybe at first, like in the beginning of the week, that they would kind of tolerate some kind of lower level version of this war. But then Araghchi, the foreign minister, said that they need to withdraw. He's saying, calling for a full withdrawal. If you look at the language of the MOU, it is pretty strong on the war in Lebanon, but it says that Lebanon's territorial integrity, sovereignty must be respected, which you can take that as a call for an Israeli withdrawal, but not necessarily an explicit one. But then you see Araghchi saying explicitly that, yes, this means a withdrawal. And I think Iran might tolerate this current situation for the time being, but I don't know if this is sustainable, because it's kind of a test, I think, of theirs to see if the U.S., you know, how serious the U.S. is about actually ending this thing. So, you know, we'll see what this turns into.
What do you make of all the neocons? So I was at the gym this morning. I would have never put this on, but it just happened to be on one of the TVs. I want to clarify that. And Fox News was on one of the TVs. You know, they had some Democrats, they had Republicans on there. blustering about how bad this deal is, how this is a terrible deal for the United States, etc. So you know what the narrative is from like the mainstream media, or at least like from the neocon media, like the Fox News crowd and so forth. And then I read to you the release from Senator Wicker's office earlier, Chairman Wicker's office, about how we need to just destroy Iran, that we can't have this agreement, we can't have this deal. So you can see the alignment happening. The neocons, the Democrats, there's, all of the people that probably receive APEC money are coming out of the woodwork to really say that this is a bad move for the United States of America. Are they right or are they wrong?
Well, I mean, they're definitely wrong, and that doesn't mean that this is an American victory. The MOU, as like Vance is trying to spin it, it's very clear that the Trump administration has actually given up on pretty much all of its stated goals at the beginning of the war. We see Trump saying, I don't see why we need to get the uranium, but for us, for Americans, because it's either this or something much worse, which is a return to full-scale war, the strait being closed, global economic depression, as President Trump himself said. And he even acknowledged that, he couldn't bomb it open. So, when it comes to, from our perspective, yes, this deal is a total win compared with what could happen. So we are seeing the meltdown. And that's the thing that got me kind of pretty excited this week. I've been really enjoying the clips of like Ben Shapiro melting down about this and other people. And it feels like our side's really been losing lately on this stuff. So it's just kind of just enjoying that. Obviously, there's a lot of ways that this could go wrong, and they're going to pull out all the stops, both in Israel and their supporters here, to try to sabotage this thing. So it's very shaky.
Tucker did a funny job of laying out exactly how this unfolded, and I think it was pretty interesting. And he basically called Israel like our bitch in his little monologue. And he said, look, we had this agreement. We went back and forth with Iran, and we sent you a copy of the agreement, of the MOU, to Israel, meaning we hammered this out, and we sent you a copy of how this went down. Do you think that's how it went down? I mean, that seems to be, obviously, Tucker's on the inside of this, knows it very, very well. Do you think that Israel was involved in this negotiation at all?
That's a good question. Actually, there was reporting in Israeli media that before the MOU was released, Israel requested it, and they actually didn't get to look at it. So at least that's the narrative that, we're getting from Israeli media and the Trump administration, is that Israel was not involved. But I mean, I'm sure that there was some consultation, at some point with it. It's hard for me to believe that they would just negotiate it without even consulting them at all. But that is, what we're being led to believe here.
Do you believe that there's some kind of real sea change inside the White House? Like, we're done with you? Like, we're why? I don't buy it. Anytime there's been there's a conflict between Bibi and Trump. Like, I don't usually buy it. I think it's all theater, as I mentioned earlier. But this, I don't know, something about this seems different.
No, it does. I mean, it seems like, again, there's been like a total 180. It's happened very quickly. And it's interesting, the timeline. Like last week, there was what appeared to be, I thought this meant a return to full-scale war, some pretty heavy exchanges of strikes between the U.S. and Iran. And then you had the Iran target northern Israel in response to Israel bombing Beirut. Like, I didn't think that situation could exist, of these like limited attacks without it plunging the whole region back into war. But then Trump started really making all of his big threats again, saying he's going to take Kharg Island. And then all of a sudden there's a deal. So it's like, it's hard to wrap my head around exactly what happened. But what I think the change is that, I know that there's people in the Pentagon, and you can tell by the leaks that have come out about, Iran's military capabilities after this war, that they have more than 70% of their missiles and missile launchers. So it's been clear that there's people within the Pentagon who didn't want to do this again. And I'm sure that there's people in the administration who've been making this case to Trump. And it looks like he, right now, for the time being, is listening to them. And I think it's over the concern of the elections. And what's interesting is that Trump and Netanyahu have opposite political interests right now. Netanyahu has elections coming up. Trump's got the midterms. And Netanyahu wants the war to continue, and for election purposes, Trump doesn't. So I could see there being kind of a split when it comes to their kind of personal interests, like the parties in power right now, but like a real split between the U.S. and Israel. I would be surprised if that is a result of this.
You get some moments of clarity from President Trump occasionally where you can tell he's just speaking off the cuff, and he maybe lets the truth or the cat out of the bag from time to time, like he did yesterday when he admitted that in front of the world that we had to get a peace agreement in place, because if we didn't, with the Strait of Hormuz being closed for another few weeks, his words were bedlam. It would have been bedlam. I'm sure he was hearing from oil executives who were telling him we're at tank bottoms, we have nothing left. Like, shit's about to hit the fan here. He really I think he let the cat out of the bag by admitting that really Iran was holding all of the cards here.
Yeah, and it's the opposite of what he was saying, before this. Like, at one point, I remember, this was just a couple weeks ago in the Oval Office, he was asked about the Strait. How long do you think it's going to be closed? And he said, you know what? It's actually great that the Strait is closed because we're exporting more oil and gas than ever before. Everything's great. We don't need the Strait. And now admitting what everybody knew, what was pretty clear to anyone looking at this seriously, that, it was not a sustainable situation. The question is, I saw Mark Levin tweet today that he said, how about a new strategy? How about instead of giving Iran, releasing their frozen funds, and we use this time to kind of rebuild and pause and then get through the midterms and then knock them out, as he put it. So basically, let's take a few month pause and then restart the war. And I think that is a possibility. And I know that is something Iran is suspecting, because they have no reason to trust the U.S. at this point. So that's a possibility, that they could be saying, all right, let's kick the can down the road here.
Resupply.
And then, revisit this. Yeah.
Yeah. Dave DeCamp, one of the head news editors over at antiwar.com, a must-read website if you care about the world and humanity and you hate war like we do. Antiwar.com is the place to go. Dave, great to see you, my friend, as always. Thanks for your analysis and thanks for your great writing.
Thanks, Clayton. Great to be with you.
I appreciate it. All right, coming up, COVID cover-up, arguably one of the biggest stories in the world, and Senator Johnson, of course, has been pushing for transparency on it. Dr. Robert Malone and others, of course, have been calling for transparency on this. Yet the mainstream media has totally ignored it, totally ignored the revelations about the adverse events that the government knew about as it relates to the COVID vaccine, and did nothing to stop it from going out into the market. Myocarditis, cardiac arrest, just sweep it under the rug. Just give it to the American people. Allow them to take it and die, like these sick bastards. We're going to talk about that in a moment. But first, is your computer running slow? Most people blame the device, but a lot of the time, the real problem is your antivirus software. Traditional antivirus programs can be bulky, heavy, constantly running in the background, dragging everything down. That's why we love WebRoot. WebRoot is cloud-based antivirus software, so it's built to stay light, fast, and out of your way. It takes up to 33 less space than bulky competitors, and it scans 6 times faster. I remember growing up, my parents would get like a new PC or something, and they would get like that terrible antivirus software. It would come on a disc, and then like your PC was fine. You put that disc in, and then like the whole computer ground to a halt. It was terrible. It was absolutely terrible. I remember I had a Dell computer back in the day. Remember Dell? And man, you put that antivirus software in there, the whole computer would like shut down. Like you couldn't even use the darn thing. WebRoot is different. Again, it runs 6 times faster because it's running in the cloud, takes 33 times less space, and it helps to protect you from malware, phishing, ransomware, and all that AI-powered cyber threats. that are coming in. And it matters because these scams are getting very smart. Phishing emails look more real than ever. They want you to log in with two-factor authentication protocols, and they're ripping you off. It's really crazy. So stop letting your antivirus work against you. Make the switch to WebRoot. For a limited time, you can save 60% when you go to webroot.com/redacted. That's webroot.com/redacted for 60% off. So our thanks to them for supporting the show. Well, this is one of the biggest stories in the world, and yet the mainstream media has totally ignored it. Senator Ron Johnson is now publicly calling out the federal government's handling of COVID vaccine safety signals, calling it the biggest government scandal of his lifetime. And it's hard to argue against that. We don't even have a full accounting yet of how many people have been killed as a result of taking these things. Like, people always want to talk about the pandemic. How many people died because they took these jabs, actually? That's the real question. Johnson has been holding hearings on Capitol Hill into allegations that federal health officials downplayed, ignored, and even covered up these vaccine safety signals that should have been triggered serious public warnings and told people, hey, maybe you shouldn't take these. But instead, they were all over CNN, Fox News, every place promoting these damn things. And earlier this week, Senator Johnson even confronted a CNN reporter on why they're not covering it. Watch this.
Senator Johnson, can we get you on the COVID cover-up? So why do you think legacy media such as CNN is not covering this?
Why aren't you covering that?
I want to ask you about Iran, the war in Iran.
You know, you really ought to cover the fact that Peter Marks knew on March 1st of 2021 that their algorithms were hiding safety signals. On 26 days later, found out 25 serious adverse events like sudden cardiac death, pulmonary infarction, Bell's palsy, different types of strokes, and they buried it. They hid it. It's a major scandal. It's even as big a scandal that the major media is completely ignoring the story. It's been out now for almost 6 weeks.
Yeah, but they'll ignore it. But I just want to ask you about Iran. I don't care about your little COVID story. Okay. Dr. Robert Malone pointed out in a tweet, if we permit a great forgetting, I like what he calls it, that a great forgetting, like we're memory holding this, then we enable and functionally endorse the same behavior and actions in the future. Senator Ron Johnson is one of the only people in a federal leadership position to reject this great forgetting. Well, we're not forgetting it. And we've got the author of that tweet, Dr. Robert Malone, on the show right now. He's the author of the book Psy-War, Enforcing the New World Order. And he writes on his Substack at malone.news. Dr. Malone, great to have you here. Welcome back to the show.
Thanks, and thanks for the little book promo there. I appreciate that. And to that point, we have another one that is in late stage development right now called The Grift. And the grift takes the metaphor of grifting that was developed in the 1920s as really a kind of a routine thing that carnies did, and applies the steps associated with the grift to what transpired during COVID, the various forms of surreptitious fraud. And it comes to the conclusion that basically we have a real problem with a system that has developed arguably since the early days of AIDS, that has been reinforced and refined over decades after decades and through multiple fear-based crisis events into a highly refined system for utilizing fear to extract profit, influence, and power. And none of the parties that are involved in what took place during COVID, of which the various frauds relating to the adverse events associated with the jab are just one aspect of that. I mean, we had the greatest upward transfer of wealth in modern history during COVID. We could go on a huge laundry list of harms that were done to the American people and worldwide. But there's been no accountability, as the senator correctly points out. And he's focused right now. And I knew he foreshadowed that this was going to be his focus before he ran again for Senate. He said to me specifically, he's a friend, he said to me specifically, he's going to run again, even though he had said he wouldn't, because he is the only one that is willing to champion the cause of the people that had suffered adverse events and deaths associated with these products. And that's not egotism. That's not narcissism. He literally is the only one that has had the, call it intestinal fortitude, to take this issue on. And he continues to pursue it. And what has happened here is that he finally was able to get Secretary Kennedy to release a large trove of documents that were partially redacted, have been withheld from his investigation committee. And he had his staffers go through those. And one of the first things that they found, and I know this because I was in his office talking to his staffers, one of the first things they found was what he's referring to in that clip. It's called masking. It's a artifact that was behind the ability of the FDA, I say it advisedly, the ability of the FDA to deny that these adverse events were occurring. And it was a particular type of data analysis artifact that was uncovered by the person that had developed the FDA's system for detecting adverse event signals. His name is Bill Dumichel, and he used to be the head biostatistician of a major corporation that does this kind of data analysis. And he was working with 3 others at the FDA, and I happened at the time to be in communication with those folks. I know Tucker's a big friend of yours, and you may or may not recall my first hit with Tucker when I disclosed that there was some major data problems associated with the analysis of the COVID events. And what Senator Johnson uncovered in these documents is confirmation that Peter Marks was made aware of this and basically suppressed that information, told the people that had developed, including Bill Dumichel, this system to overcome the problem of masking. I'm not talking stuff that puts on your face. I'm talking about a database analysis problem. And Peter Marks, head of CBER, shut him down and basically told him to shut up and ignored the information that they had uncovered when they had corrected the error in the FDA's data analysis systems.
Do we know if Marks or others were coerced by Big Pharma, Pfizer, Moderna, et cetera, to keep this quiet? I mean, you're seeing these adverse events, these vaccine safety signals, and they just swept it under the rug and hid it from the American people. Do we have direct evidence yet? Do we know?
So, no. The honest truth is I'm not aware of any smoking gun. It may exist in archived or redacted or withheld FDA emails. The FDA asserts that they had disclosed everything that was relevant to the senator's query, and yet they did not disclose the many emails correspondence that occurred between me and this same team. Something that the senator detected almost immediately when I began speaking to him about this. So there may or may not be smoking guns out there. They may or may not have been deleted. But the point of my analysis in this manuscript, The Grift, is that it wasn't necessary for there to be formal relationships like that, because the structure underpinning all of this, the informal relationships, not the least of which is the revolving door, which, of course, Dr. Marks took advantage of on his way out from the U.S. government to land a very nice, juicy position in industry after he left the FDA, which is typical. That whole dynamic that exists, and we were speaking about media, and the consequences of media no longer being able to rely on a decentralized funding base, but having to rely on a small number of advertisers and donors, often NGOs, such as the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. That's created a situation in which media is no longer independent at all. They're very dependent. So when the senator asked the question of the CDC reporter, how could I? Sorry, that was a Freudian slip. Right. CNN reporter.
Right. Same thing.
When he asked the question to the CNN reporter, CNN gets a large amount of revenue from Pfizer.
Right.
And it's not because they're promoting the latest Pfizer drug. That revenue acts to buy their silence on inconvenient stories. So why would you expect CNN, which is a struggling financial entity, to do anything other than to be sycophants, obedient to the likes of their major revenue source? It's exactly what you'd expect.
Right. When are we going to see? I mean, that's maybe not a question for you on the subpoena front here. Congressional subpoenas, criminal investigations.
No, the answer is no.
Yeah.
The answer that's one of the major conclusions of the book is that there's a bunch of and it's a very nicely developed chapter of things that could be done. But the truth is that the Congress, Senate and House, is unable to even pass a budget.
Right.
They are completely incompetent in terms of their constitutional function in governance, which, by the way, is one of the reasons why power is shifting to the judiciary, because power doesn't evaporate just because somebody doesn't exercise it. As you know, power abhors a vacuum, and if the Hill won't act, then somebody else will. In this case, the judiciary is starting to step in more and more. But do I expect the House or Senate to take action here? Absolutely not. They have too much of investment in the same revenue sources, in the funding coming from bio. These are former lobbying companies, organizations. Bio Pharma is the name of a major lobbying organization. And now there's a massive new organization that is focused on mRNA industry lobbying that Senator Cassidy was one of the leading luminaries for before he lost his primary.
Well, again, in our own redacted chat this morning, we were all talking on the team here about, you have these parasites that come out of the woodwork who, of course, want us to continue to stay in war. We have a healthcare industry.
Yep.
That's completely corrupted and funded by,
And this ecosystem of weaponizing fear to generate profit and power and all of the trimmings that come along with it has been institutionalized. It's not just infectious disease or hantavirus or the latest scare of the day. It's the climate crisis. It's war. Fear is incredibly powerful. In terms of getting attention and sales and votes and everything else.
Yeah, it's really crazy. I mean, even people who write like marketing emails, for crying out loud, know that works the best.
Absolutely.
Dr. Robert Malone, great to see you as always. Congrats on working on the new book, The Grift. Let us know when it's fully out. We'll love to have you come back on and do a deep dive for sure. Great to see you as always.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
You bet. All right, coming up, we're going to talk about Canada. Mark Carney yesterday announced that Canada is the biggest supplier of money and weapons, and they're on the front lines and training for Ukraine. I don't know if you saw Mark Carney caught on a hot microphone yesterday, basically kissing President Trump's ass about Chinese EVs in the country and everything else. But he also was on camera talking about the center of power, he believes, the future of the world order. Globalists, really is what he's saying, is now in the heart of the EU and the European Union. And Canada, he says, will be a major part of it. Okay. I don't know if he's seen any news about Europe not exactly doing well, but okay. So Canada wants to farm out its sovereignty to the EU. Gotcha. Yeah, okay. But first, right now, we want to tell you about gold and silver. I just wanted to check some gold and silver numbers today. I can, but I lost my mouse here. If I can, I just missed it. Too many screens in here in the studio, and can't find my mouse on my screen. You're seeing what's happening, obviously, right now with the U.S. dollar. You heard confirmation from the Federal Reserve and Kevin Warsh the other day that the U.S. dollar, there's no plans to raise interest rates, to try to curtail this crazy inflation that we have. There's no plans to lower interest rates. We're going to keep things steady for now. So what does that mean? That means, of course, more U.S. dollar uncertainty. And if you heard from President Putin today, who made a speech specifically talking about moving away from the US dollar. The de-dollarization is happening, aligning with Asian currencies, making sure that people can transact in their own sovereign currencies, specifically calling out the US dollar and de-dollarization. This is what's happening. So do you want your family's future tied to the US dollar? Of course not. You need to protect yourself, and one way to do that is with precious metals. Big advocates here on this show of making sure that you have some of your savings at least positioned in precious metals. I spoke to mining legend Brian Solarchuk last week, who told me he believes gold is going to hit $10,000 an ounce. It's now, as of today, right now, about $4,200 an ounce. Silver about $65 an ounce. There's price targets for silver at $300 an ounce. Regardless of how well it goes up, to me, it's about wealth preservation and protecting your family. So if you've got some money sitting right now in Bitcoin or US dollars, wouldn't it make sense to actually have a tangible asset like silver and gold? Anyway, talk to our friends at Lear Capital because they're an American company. There's no pressure at all. They'll have a free phone call with you. They're an education company first. So just have a conversation with them. When you call them at 1-800-613-3557, you're not going to be outsourced to some Indian call center. You're going to talk to Americans, and they have a team dedicated to our show that will help our viewers figure this out and answer any questions you have. Maybe you have a 401k that's been sitting there that you want to transfer into a gold-backed IRA. They'll help you do all of that. They can do that for you. And they're one of the best in the country at it, by the way. Or just visit their website, learredacted.com, and learn how you can receive up to $20,000 in bonus metals with a qualified purchase. So give them a call, 1-800-613-3557. Just have a conversation with them. No pressure at all. And see if you've got a few $1,000s in savings, few $100s in savings that you want to transfer out of US dollars into precious metals. Give them a call today. Well, I'm sure you saw this. It seems Canadians are pissed off, not surprisingly, pissed at the performance of their weak-kneed leader, Mark Carney, on the world stage at the G7, who was bumbling and stumbling through answers about his private conversations with President Trump. Didn't realize there was hot microphones in place, sucking up to President Trump, of course, celebrating the success of a failed Iran war, saying it was great. Great, I'm glad we did it. And outsourcing Canada's sovereignty to the European Union, saying that the future of globalism really sits in the European Union and in Brussels, and that Canada will be a part of it. Okay, an entire continent away, you're going to outsource your sovereignty to Europe? I don't know if you paid attention to Europe. It's not exactly doing well. Wide open borders, energy crisis, massive inflation, an economy in ruins in a lot of areas. Just look at Germany, for instance, moving towards a militarized government now in order to fight Russia. Is that what you want? It seems that way, because that's exactly what Mark Carney told CNN. We are proud. We believe that Ukraine is going to win this war. And by the way, Canada is the biggest supplier of training, weapons, and we're on the front lines right there in the Baltics, leading and helping in Ukraine in any way that we can. Watch.
You mentioned President Zelensky. You met with him today. He's also been in these meetings behind closed doors with President Trump. You said you think that Ukraine is going to ultimately win this war.
Yeah.
When you were talking behind closed doors and the U.S. president was there, is that a view that he seemed to share as well?
I think it's a view that is held strongly by those who are very active. Canada's the biggest per capita supplier of aid to Ukraine. We're one of the biggest trainers of the Ukraine army. We have joint production agreements with Ukraine. We're on the front lines in the Baltics. So we are in and around. We, the Germans, the UK, the French, all are of the view that the tide has turned in this war. It is a matter of time. Putin is going to lose this war, and from now until the point where he realizes that or accepts that, it is absolutely senseless slaughter.
Mr. Prime Minister, thank you for your time.
Senseless slaughter. So let's keep it going. Let's keep it going with more money, more weapons, more training, more sovereignty being handed over to the Europeans on the part of Canada. Unbelievable. Let's bring in David Creighton now, who is an independent journalist. He writes his own daily website at creightonswritenews.com. David, great to have you back on the show, my friend, joining us from Ottawa today. What an embarrassment What an embarrassment for Canada, it seems. How is this playing out, Carney's performance at the G7 on the world stage?
Well, very much. Mark Carney remains a Teflon political figure. It's amazing to me. The same geriatrics that elected Mark Carney, the so-called super boomers that elected Mark Carney in 2025 in the last federal election, remain very, very committed to Mark Carney. It's as if they're delusional as to what Mark Carney is all about. Now, I am not in the least bit proud, Clayton, that Canada has given Ukraine $25.5 billion in assistance since 2022. And most of this in direct military aid. Now, this is an absolute atrocity. And we have just provided Ukraine with 900 Sky Ranger drones. Some of those, I'm sure, because most of those drones have been delivered to the front lines. So some of those drones, I'm sure, were used in that attack on Moscow today. Some of them might have been used on that terrorist attack, as you so aptly described it, against those school children in the bus where one child died. So Mark Carney is running not only the most corrupt government in the history of Canada, and I'll go into some detail how that corruption relates to Ukraine, but he's also made Canada complicit in what I would consider war crimes. Just like the U.S. committed war crimes in Iran, I think what's going on right now over Russia constitutes war crimes. And to call it anything else is nonsense. But Clayton, why does Mark Carney love the war so much? Why does Mark Carney love this war in Ukraine? Why does he trying to convince himself that Ukraine can win this war? Which,
Right.
of course, is absolute
That's a great question. I mean, no one believes that. He said the only people that believe it are the people that are involved. No, I mean, really? Because they're involved monetarily? Why does he? That's a great question. Why does he believe this farce?
Well, I can tell you why. And it boils down to what's good for Mark Carney. And everywhere Mark Carney goes, Brookfield Asset Management is either 2 or 3 steps ahead of him or 2 or 3 steps behind. And of course, Brookfield is the firm that Mark Carney used to be chairman of the board just before he left to run for the leadership of the Liberal Party of Canada, then becoming prime minister. But Brookfield is very much still a part of Mark Carney. We don't know how much holdings Mark Carney continues to have in Brookfield because they're in a blind trust, if you recall.
Right.
103 different conflicts of interest, but we don't know where Mark Carney's money is situated. We don't even know how much the man is worth. I've said on good authority, it's hundreds of millions of dollars at the very least. But why is he so in love with the war in Ukraine? Why does he think Ukraine can win? Well, it's because Brookfield Asset Management controls the majority of the nuclear energy in Ukraine. There's 15 nuclear reactors in Ukraine, and Brookfield, through its majority shareholding in Westinghouse. Westinghouse is now owned by Brookfield, 51%, 49% Comico. So Brookfield wants those nuclear reactors to stay open and to stay in Ukrainian hands so it can continue to profit. And guess what? One of those reactors is in Russian lines right now, and at least 5 of them are threatened by a Russian advance. So that would mean no more money for Brookfield. And the other part of this equation, Clayton, and this is why I say this is the most corrupt government in the history of Canada. Brookfield is 3rd in line to initiate the so-called massive reconstruction, like the Marshall Plan for Ukraine. Brookfield is 3rd in line after, you guessed it, we're talking about companies like BlackRock, number 1, JP Morgan Chase, number 2, and Brookfield is number 3. So here's tens of trillions of dollars that Mark Carney could be profiting from because of his relationship with Brookfield. So why does he want Ukraine to win this war? It's all about Mark Carney, just like everything else is.
Interesting. We don't know the numbers on his blind trust and how much he would be a beneficiary of all of this. But as you pointed out, Brookfield, from what I read, has also been awarded, was it a $4 billion contract as part of the reconstruction So going in and building an additional like 9 nuclear reactors in Ukraine as part of this contract. So they would be out like a huge swath of money, especially if Russia continues to advance into Odessa, across the Dnieper River, and takes additional land. Then Brookfield Asset Management might be out of some money, a lot of money.
And that's precisely it. The more Russia advances in this war, the less Brookfield potentially can make out of this war. And I find it fascinating that, companies like J.P. Morgan, they profited hugely from the First World War. Here they are again, these parasites, and I would include Brookfield Asset Management amongst the parasites. Here they go again, profiting from human misery, from this war that goes on and on and on. And as you said, 2 million Ukrainians dead. Here we have Volodymyr Zelensky, the corrupt president of Ukraine, claiming it's 50,000 Ukrainians have died in this war. How ridiculous is that? This is a war with First World War casualties and fatalities.
When you brought up a great point about these drones, and this is one of the main reasons I wanted to talk to you today, and then it just so happened that we saw this massive attack on Moscow. So these particular drones, we don't know yet exactly, but these certainly were not Ukrainian drones. These were long-range, Western-backed drones of some capacity. We'll probably get more reporting on that in the next few days, I'm sure. But does Canada have a death wish? Because as Russia has said, these Western countries, these NATO countries that are supplying and positioning these weapons in Ukraine and providing them to Ukraine are now legitimate targets. I mean, Sweden providing these Gripen fighter jets, Canada providing these long-range drones. I mean, I don't know the Russians to bluff, but if Canada is the largest provider of training, providing thousands of these long-range drones, I'm sorry, but Canada should be worried about some sort of a Russian attack, I would say.
Well, it's pregnant with awesome possibilities, isn't it? And when I listen to Colonel Douglas Macgregor, a friend of my show as well, I've had him on many times to talk about world events and especially the war in Ukraine. When he talks about Russia possibly taking out the Gripen fighter jet factory in Sweden, and I'm thinking, what could never happen to Canada? Well, actually it is feasible. It is possible. Since 1957, Russia, or at that time, the Soviet Union, developed intercontinental ballistic missile capability ahead of the United States, actually. A lot of people aren't aware of that. So since 1957, Russia has had ICBM capability. So it has been quite capable of attacking Ottawa or Toronto at any time. Now, this doesn't necessarily have to be a nuclear-capable missile. But yes, it could strike Ottawa and it could strike Toronto with an ICBM. And certainly there are Canadian assets in Europe, which of course Mark Carney says is now our natural trading partner, our natural military defense partner. They could be attacking Canadian assets in Europe as well. And this is quite frightening. But Mark Carney, of course, really doesn't care if Canada is affected. Once again, it's the business interests that matter most to Mark Carney. So I would be very concerned about why Canada is continuing to keep this war going. This is a war that should have ended before long. It would not have gone on this long, with the exception of NATO and G7 countries pouring billions, tens of billions, hundreds of billions of dollars into it to keep it going. And the result has been a misery index. You were talking yesterday with your guest who pointed out Ukraine has gone from a country of 40 million people, which Canada actually is approaching right now, to a country of 23 million people, 10 million of which are retirees. And as I heard you say earlier, who in their right mind could possibly think this has turned out well for Ukraine? And I have Ukrainian ancestry. My dad was born in Saskatchewan with a lot of Ukrainian Canadians. I grew up listening to the atrocities of the Soviet Union leveled against Ukraine. I love the Ukrainian people. I hate this Ukrainian government, and I hate the fact that Zelensky thinks he can get away with this. And he can get away with laundering money the way he has. He can get away with stealing the money he has stolen from Western governments. And he can keep this war going only because it prolongs his miserable political career. And ultimately, that's what this war has always been about. And you know, Clayton, in Canada, it's difficult to talk this way because I'm a small C conservative, small L libertarian, depending upon the issue. It's the uniparty right now on this issue. It remains a uniparty issue. The Conservative Party supports this war in Ukraine as much as the Mark Carney liberals do, and that absolutely disgusts me because there should have been a bifurcation on this issue a long time ago, a realization that we're being played. We have been played from the beginning of this by the Europeans, by the European Union. And whenever I hear idiots like Keir Starmer say he's ready to fight Russia, he can't even get a ship to the Persian Gulf. The Royal Navy is a distant memory.
Yeah, good luck fighting Russia, Keir Starmer. You don't have the you don't have the fortitude to do it, nor do you have the personnel to be able to pull that off for sure. Yeah, it makes my skin crawl to hear Mark Carney fall in bed with these globalists there yesterday at the G7 saying that the future of the New World Order is in Europe. It's in Brussels, right? This consolidation of power, this globalist regime, getting rid of sovereign rights for these individual countries. Oh, Portugal, you want to do anything with your electric power lines? You want to do anything? Sorry, run it through Brussels. You can't answer those questions yourself as a sovereign power. You have to run it all through Brussels. It makes me sick.
And Mark Carney, of course, Clayton, it depends whether it's Monday, Wednesday, or Friday where Mark Carney is on this issue. It's foreign policy whiplash constantly. Because when it suits him, he's on his knees in front of Donald Trump in complete obeisance. When it suits him, it's Canada strong means America great again. Make America great again. He said that in New York City. Just a couple of weeks after he looked back at the War of 1812 in a fond, reminiscing way, saying that we have to be vigilant fighting those Yankees to the south. So it just depends on the day of the week whether Mark Carney is talking North American or he's talking European. The man really is fixated on one thing, as I said from the very beginning. That's the enrichment of Mark Carney. And that's what this man is all about. It's a horrible thing to say you have a prime minister who really doesn't give a damn about his country or about the people in it, only about himself and his business interests. But that's what Canada is today. I'm ashamed to say that that's where we've come under Mark Carney.
Well, maybe that's what he has in similarity with the Trump family. That's for sure. Who knows about that? David Creighton, great to see you as always. Thank you so much for joining us. Hopefully you have a great summer. Great to see you, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Clayton.
Appreciate it, David. All right. We can take some of your super chats here in a second. Indeed. Hey, but I should mention, it's almost Father's Day, and we have a store. You should check out the Redacted store. If you want to pick up something for the man in your family, the father in your family, head over to redactedstore.com. We have a bunch of great t-shirts and hoodies and mugs, all sorts of fun stuff over there. Conspiracy Knower t-shirt, our America First, and in line with the 250th coming up. Wear one of those proudly. Truth is Not Hate Speech mugs. Check them out. Our mugs, stickers, hoodies, all of it there at redactedstore.com. Check it out in time for Father's Day and get those orders in. If you want it, we really try to keep the prices in line with the printing costs. We don't mark them up very much at all. So we try to keep them as close to the printing costs as possible. But hey, show your love of the show. And thanks to all of you guys for subscribing and being a part of our community here. We really appreciate it. Let's put up a few super chats here on the screen if we can. Let's see. Alberta independence. Yeah, I mean, we'll see how far that gets. Would love to see that. Would love to see that. Carney and Trump are doing things on purpose, clearly. Russia won't nuke anybody unless its existence is threatened, but it could launch conventional armed Oreshniks. Exactly. I mean, they're not going to use nuclear weapons. But again, Russia doesn't bluff, and Russia has openly said over the past few weeks that these European countries, these NATO countries that are manufacturing and supplying weapons that are going to kill Russians are legitimate targets. Like, that's not hard to follow. Like, that's Occam's razor, right? We are going to... So this manufacturing plant in Toronto is making long-range drones that are flying into Moscow and killing people and blowing up our infrastructure. They're not being made in Ukraine. That manufacturing facility is a legitimate target. I would say the same thing if I'm in the United States and we're at war with Mexico and, I don't know, Brazil was manufacturing specific weapons that are being used by Mexico in a war against us, that those those Brazilian manufacturing plants would be legitimate targets, no? Of course. This is how you enter a world war. So does Canada have a death wish? Do these European countries have a death wish? Does Germany have a death wish? I mean, you saw the announcements over the past 48 hours from Germany on their ability now, their willingness now to step it up and tackle Russia head on. Like, there's something very dark that's coming. And there is going to be a war throughout Scandinavia and up into the Arctic Circle. We've been predicting it here on the show for a number of years. It's coming. Make no mistake about it. Blow up the Nord Stream pipeline, you cut off energy supplies. Like, this is what's coming. Let's see here. Here's Longmeadow. No question for Dave DeCamp. Just ton of respect to you, Dave. Keep up the light of keep the light of peace for humanity going in this dark world. Of course, referring to Dave DeCamp, who was our guest earlier today, talking. He is the news editor from antiwar.com. Always great to have him. Plasma Stream says the Russians will speed up their killing process and more white Europeans will die. The tribe will then move into Ukraine and they want the land and the soil. The tribe. These are retribution attacks against Europe for Israel. They can't win their own fight and they want Ukraine to move too, as they are out of time in Palestine. They cleansed of Ukrainians. I mean, this is exactly what Colonel McGregor has talked about. The idea that Ukraine would become another version of Israel. You've had a lot of them moving to Ukraine. So that plan makes perfect sense. Move in all of the money that's there to build out brand new infrastructure and have that be basically a new Israel. Could very well be that Ukraine becomes the next Israel. Let's see here. A bunch of Nazis in Ukraine. Are you talking about in Ukraine? Clearly. Ukraine will need single men. Yeah, where are they going to get these single men? Open up your borders.
I might move to Ukraine.
You couldn't handle Ukraine.
That's true.
The moment you got there, they'd throw you into the meat grinder. Oh, you look like a military age man. You could fight. Throw you right in the meat grinder. Carney is a complete moron. Let's see. America is dead. Welcome to the United States of Israel. A lot of hot ladies in Ukraine. I don't know. They all go to like the Kiev nightclubs that are totally running fine, while the men are out dying, being killed. Everything's fine there. Ukraine is was the second Israel. Yeah. Well, any other super chats that we want to get to? I won't read that one. Spec needs. Thank you. I did put one up here, but I'm not going to read it. Oh man. Yes, we've seen the videos. A van pulls up, masked men grab soldiers for the front. Yes. Like, we've seen how many videos? Hundreds of them. Of course. And you've seen the empty cars of Ukrainian men trying to escape, leaving their cars on the side of the road and then running to and trying to cross the borders. That's exactly what happened. And of course the organ harvesting that's going on in Ukraine that no one will talk about. We have talked about it and covered it. But it's an incredibly profitable industry, and so is the baby making factories in Ukraine. I mean, you're talking about one of the most corrupt countries in the world. And the amount of money laundering and through organ harvesting, sex trafficking, child trafficking, baby trafficking. Biolabs. And you don't believe me? Just go to the U.S. State Department's own website. Before we got into this whole war, you could read for years as one of the most corrupt governments. And this U.S. State Department's own assessments of how corrupt Ukraine was.
Well, it makes sense because it's pretty much lawless. I mean, America, like the United States, can do things over there they can't do here because there's no law stopping them from doing that kind of research and et cetera.
Yeah.
Well, there probably are, but it's just a lot easier to grease the palms to get past them.
Right. Even Russia.
I'm sure North. Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say I'm sure that just some ordinary person couldn't go just create a biolab and do whatever. They're gonna want kickback, and so it's more about the grease. It's the corruption is the problem. That was what the State Department called them out as, basically like the most corrupt country in Europe.
You've seen recently, well, yeah, and you also the what was I going to say? Lost my train of thought, but well, Sergei Lavrov the other day. Well, on the question of EU, I just was going to bring this up separately, but I lost my train of thought on the other point. But the idea of Ukraine joining the EU, I mean, you're going to have one of the most corrupt governments in the world join the European Union. So Sergei Lavrov was asked about this from Russia, and the idea was, no, we would never want that, obviously, but actually, you know what? Might not be a bad idea. Why? Because it could cause the entire system to collapse. It'd be like you have a healthy group of people and then you just inject them all with cancer. That's basically what you'd be doing. So sure. Now you have to prop up Ukraine. So it'd be like a snake eating its own tail in a lot of ways. I don't know if you have to really sit and think about that. If Ukraine joined the EU, what would that look like? It would suck up all of the oxygen in the room. Brussels would now be forced to deal with one of the most corrupt countries in the world. They'd have to foot the bill. They'd have to prop it up. They'd have to guarantee security, right? They'd have to guarantee financial security. Can you imagine? They'd have to take on all of that
poison the well.
debt.
It's like poisoning the reservoir. It's like
it'd be crazy. It'd be interesting though because the European Union, there's a lot of journalists who are banned from Ukraine for telling the truth about the war, and they're on Ukrainian kill lists and all of this other stuff. If Ukraine becomes part of the EU, and then you had a German journalist who's got an EU passport, are they now given protection? They suddenly are now hey, I'm going to fly into Ukraine. Normally, the SBU would probably round them up and make them disappear, like Gonzalo Lira or something. Now would they be forced to be all right, gotta let these guys in? I don't know. Be interesting. It's an interesting it's an interesting question though. And Sergei Lavrov's idea that maybe this actually would be good because it would cause the collapse of the EU. I don't know. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. All right. Maddie says, why would anyone fly to Ukraine? You couldn't pay me. You could not pay me to fly to Ukraine. No, thank you. Heard of Oregon petition 28 that will ban hunting. In Oregon? No, I don't know anything about that. They would ban hunting in Oregon?
You say ban hunting in Oregon?
Yeah.
No, I've not heard anything about that.
Clinton,
I don't think that would fly.
We have these on our website. We have our right, Grim. I think we have these on our website. A version of them. This is an old print, so I don't think you can get this one anymore. But we have new prints up on our website at redactedstore.com. Yeah, petition. I don't know. Noel says Oregon sucks as much as Washington. Is that true, Philip? You live in Washington, right?
Yeah, I lived for, 10 years in Oregon, and I've been in Washington for about 6 or 7. So, I don't know. I don't know why you'd say sucks. It definitely has its problems, but it's gorgeous up here. Yeah, exactly. I don't go to downtown. Yeah, I don't go to downtown Portland anymore.
That's the thing. I think a lot of people paint Oregon with a Portland brush.
Portland
if you leave Portland, like the most of the south and other parts outside of the big cities are conservatives. It's
like New York. Like you get out of New York City, you upstate New York, you're gonna find hardworking people who just want the government out of their lives, and they don't want to funnel money to Israel. Like you kind of find a lot of those people as you get out of these little city centers. Yeah.
Yeah, and I live in a smaller town in Washington, so it's probably 30 minutes from Portland. Close to Vancouver.
I should rephrase, probably more like classic liberal than like whatever the conservatism is at this point.
Classic liberal, let's be honest. Classic liberal is not what liberals are now at all. So
no.
Classic liberal in many ways is kind of what, I don't know. It's like what the America First crowd kind of is now in a lot of ways. Like I don't know how you could even define any of these things anymore. Go back to the 90s when you had like Bill Clinton, who really kind of co-opted a lot of Republican policies to balance a budget with Alan Greenspan, and like we had a balanced budget. What? And was closing down military bases and sleeping with women in the White House. You know what I mean? Who the hell knows? What? But an anti-war? Remember what used to be anti-war? Who knows what? I don't even know what that means anymore.
Yeah. Well, it's crazy because it's like the left has shifted so far left that they're coming back to the right, and the right has shifted so far right they're coming back to the left, and it's like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah. I don't know what this next election is going to be the craziest in American history, because so many Americans are fed up with all of these labels. 100 million Americans don't vote. They're sick of it. They see the corruption of both of these parties. There's one big corrupt uniparty. So there's no daylight at all between Republicans and Democrats. They might fight over a few little cultural issues here. And by the way, pay attention to this. As we get closer to the election cycle, you're going to see stories about trans flags and all of that, and pushing a trans agenda. You're going to see the culture war issues are going to start to pop back up again. Just pay attention. It's going to happen because they want us to fight like that. They want us to fight in those little narrow crevices. There's no daylight at all between Republicans and Democrats at all. One giant corrupt uniparty.
And if they would allow third parties to debate, if the Republicans and Democrats didn't control the debates, they didn't control the election system. I mean, they're both private entities, private parties that don't answer to the federal government. They can make whatever rules they want. If you had a viable third party, they would stand a chance now. But the thing is, you'll never know about them because they'll fight to be on the ballot. They'll fight to, they'll be marginalized. It's just. It's just the system is made for these two parties, and there's no way to get rid of them right now.
Yeah.
Voting isn't going to do it.
Don Julio in our chat says he is a libertarian queer. All right, Don, you're gay and proud. That's great. Good to be.
I think my daughter summed up the Uniparty pretty well a couple weeks ago. She's about 20, and she's like. Democrats are just Republicans with pronouns in their profile. I was like, yeah, that's basically it.
Yeah. Can we get back to, I love American history, and so I have a fondness growing up in Philadelphia, and when I worked at 4th and Market Street, would walk through the plaza there at Independence Hall, a few blocks from where Thomas Jefferson wrote the Declaration of Independence, seeing those cobblestone streets on my way home every day. Seeing all the red brick there, just picturing sort of Benjamin Franklin walking around down to the first post office right there on 4th and Market Street, it's hard not to feel nostalgic for that, or feeling like that's what America could be. Again, staying out of world affairs, adhering to sort of a George Washington, not isolationist, but being a non-interventionist. Is that so hard to imagine that we could do that? We could invest that money that we get through taxes into the United States. Is that so hard? I don't know what that makes a person who supports that, who wants to be like America first and care about their economy, care about people being able to work. Does that make them a libertarian? I don't think so. A libertarian to me is a very, I don't know. Who knows anymore what these labels even mean?
I was just talking with my daughter the other day about how they've just become so inept in Congress. And you think about the Constitution is literally like a living document. It has the ability to be amended so that you can, it can be updated to modernity. And with the ineptitude and the division that they've created, where they stay about 50% all the time, that will never happen again. I don't think we'll ever see another constitutional amendment.
No, I don't either.
And it really just, it's kind of a disservice for our country, because then we can't grow in ideas. We're just stuck.
I gave a speech last year, and one of the things I talked about is how, if we were to hold a constitutional convention in the year 2025 / now 2026, we would not have freedom of speech. That would not be in our Constitution. That would not be in our Bill of Rights. Absolutely not. First Amendment. Sorry, there would be no First Amendment. If we were to hold a constitutional convention right now, it is the greatest affront to power, oligarchs. And you can see how they've been trying to erode free speech. Technocracy, surveillance state, pre-crime, whatever you want to call it, right? But it's under assault. At least at the end of the day, if you have a fight that ends up going all the way to the Supreme Court, you usually win it. But even that has been eroded. But I don't believe, if we were to hold a constitutional convention in 2026, there's no chance that freedom of speech would be included in it. Sorry. That's why every country that kind of models their constitutions over the past few years or decades on the United States Constitution, freedom of speech is not really there. It's not there.
Freedom of religion would probably be at Acts 2, based on who's running the country.
Well, and Second Amendment, right to bear arms. So like this experiment, and of course they absolutely hate the freedom of speech. They hate it, and the powers that be. It's the greatest affront. You can take away their social media, but you could still go out in a plaza if it's a public square, as long as you're not committing violence. You could still denounce the government.
As long as you stay in the free speech zones.
Yeah.
You've heard of those, right?
Oh, yeah, on campus, college campuses. Yeah.
And in the Capitol.
Yeah, am I wrong about that? I mean, just asking in the chat room, like, do you guys agree? Like, if we had a constitutional convention in 2026, do you guys think we would have the First Amendment as part of it? There's no way.
No, I don't.
It's going to be like that. Did you ever see that Arrested Development episode where they were protesting and they put them in that fence? They said you can protest in here.
Yeah.
It's pretty much like that. It's like, okay, you can have all the free speech you want right out here in the middle of the desert in this cage.
Stand here in the heat. Balanced budget at 0. I mean, it's law that we have to have right, Kara. It's what's amazing to me is that we have a government law that we have to have a balanced budget, but we don't ever adhere to it. Like, there are states in the United States that have a constitutional requirement of a balanced budget. The United States government just ignores it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, Oregon's required to return surplus. I think they still do that. I haven't lived in Oregon in like 6 years, but if they have a budget surplus at the end of a term or whatever, like at the end of the year, they give money back.
Yeah.
So I think they have to have a balanced budget.
Hate speech is not free speech, Charlie says. Yeah, that's what they like to say. But what is hate speech? Something that the other, if you speak out against, like you speak out against data centers in your backyard, that's now considered hate speech. Or speak out against giving money to a foreign government is now considered hate speech. Like, that's anti-Semitism. If I don't want any money going to Israel, a country of 9 million people that has a space force and healthcare free for everyone, you need our money so you can carry out genocides? Like, that's hate speech? Okay. Sure. Thought crimes. Yeah, exactly, Robert. Thought crimes. Barbara says the one virtue of the Republican Party is that they're internally more democratic than the Democrats are.
I mean, is that true? What do you mean?
Well, democratic in small d democratic, like you're more open to ideas. That might be true. Like that they're more open, sort of in a Charlie Kirk kind of a way. Like, what ideas do you have? Let's have a conversation. Is that what you mean by that? Like, more democratic and we welcome your ideas. We're not going to like flip out like a blue-haired Karen and cause violence. Maybe. That may be true.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know that there's any distinction in the. I mean, if you look at the way both parties are gerrymandering all of their districts, and they're just doing whatever they can to disenfranchise as many of the other side as they can. I don't think if you're championing the division. I mean, I can't think in the past freaking decade when I've heard any politician talk about anything at all that they do not bring up the other party as a straw man or some kind of, it's like they. And so, like, no, I would say that there is no difference in like that it's that strategy of tension. It's I don't see that they're more open to ideas. We've become more polarized, and it's not just one side polarizing everything; it's both of them polarizing. Yeah. That's how I see it.
Yeah, I think you're right. They always want to play the other party as a straw man. And they want to keep us, as Colonel Towner Watkins likes to say, in that strategy of tension, so that we're constantly fighting over these cultural issues or whatever, but there is no daylight between these two parties at all, which is exactly why, you can't have a person like Charlie Kirk, right? Agree, Clayton. Osme says, or Ohms says, I hate data centers and the goblins that build them. Well, pretty soon they're going to have all these data centers in space, so you don't have to worry about them. With SpaceX, they're just going to build all the compute in space now, so you won't have to see it or hear it.
And just one day, many years from now, that shit's just all going to fall on our heads.
Fall out of the sky.
Yeah, gravity's going to cease to exist.
We'll just have to deal with the daily data center eclipses at noon every day. You gotta
return to whiteness. Sydney Sweeney has new jeans. I like Sydney Sweeney's jeans. I like that she doesn't take shit from anybody. She's like, whatever you think of me, I don't care.
Is that what we're calling them now? Jeans?
She has great jeans. She really does. How many of you in the chat would say or do you feel like you've been that you might have identified last year as maybe MAGA, or you would have because of what had happened to this country that you're going to vote for peace, no more wars, reshoring manufacturing in the United States, closing our border, no more supporting foreign government, all of that, right? Would you say you identified in any way as MAGA? Not in a pejorative kind of way, but you would have maybe quietly said it to yourself. You might not have worn a red hat and all of that, but you might have really agreed with it in a way. And now do you feel like you've abandoned that because it's been co-opted and it's been used, it's been a lie in many ways? Do you feel differently about it? Or were you never, and you really always sort of didn't know how to articulate it, but you were really America first? I think for a lot of people, there's been a reckoning where people are like, wait a minute, I was MAGA, but I'm not for all of this stuff that's happening. I'm America first. That's all I want. I want to be able to buy cheap groceries for my family and know that when I'm working 60 hours a week, that my dollar can actually afford for me to buy a house, pay my rent, provide for my family, not have to buy a $50 cheeseburger. So, just curious where people come down on that.
Well, and there's another faction now, America only, because America first means you're going to take care of America, but you're going to also help other countries. And right now, I mean, with what, 39 trillion in debt, we can't afford to keep helping anyone.
Yeah, we can't help ourselves, but we're fine to send 300 billion to Iran after we bomb them and enrich the military industrial complex. Larza for Trump says, I'm still MAGA. I get what POTUS is doing. Nope. No. Oh, sorry. These moved too quickly. Noel says, nope. MAGA was a joke. Well, was it marketing? Was it brilliant marketing? Convince a lot of people of something and then enrich yourself, enrich your family, do the bidding of Israel, Miriam Adelson, Peter Thiel, tech oligarchs under the auspices of surveillance, it's our safety, but under the auspices of surveillance. That's what bothers me, right? Close the border. The most important thing is we close the border for America's safety. But over here, behind door number 2, is we're making these contracts with Palantir to actually surveil everyone in the United States. And we're going to sell it to the American people under the auspices of safety. I'm going to surveil the shit out of you.
You know that Austin story, the kid that said he wouldn't work for a Jew. That to me feels like some kind of Palantir test. It's okay, we're gonna launch this story, and we're gonna see who comments, and we're gonna track, and we're gonna find all the anti-Semites, quote unquote. It just has that kind of feel because it just came from out of nowhere. It had some kind of GoFundMe campaign up within 10 hours. It just completely took over the news cycle, and it just felt manufactured to me, the whole thing.
Yeah. Well, it's like, yeah, I mean, it's like the assassination attempt, right? It's like that moment locked it in.
Butler?
Yeah, and Butler.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. You're a grifter, Don? I'm sure you do grifter.
We could never really be isolated, though, because like that's the thing. Everybody thinks people are for isolationism, and nobody is. They're for non-interventionism, which is completely different. We couldn't isolate ourselves because we depend on too many products that come in from other countries. Like we don't manufacture anything anymore. Like even the steel that used to be manufactured in Pennsylvania, which was like a big thing in that area, that's not even. I mean, we even send chicken over to China to get processed. Like we could not isolate ourselves at this point from the world. There's no way.
No. Everything we have, I mean, all of our precious minerals, we don't have any mining that's happening in the United States at all. We rely on everything from China. Our enriching of our uranium has to go to Russia. Like to power our power plants has to come from Russia. Think about how ridiculous that is. Thanks to the Clintons.
I mean, what actually is our GDP? What do we actually export out of this country at this point, besides war?
Well, now some natural gas and oil. Now that we blew up the Nord Stream pipeline, we're sending to Germany. We send quite a bit of natural gas, but a lot of information, entertainment. It's our biggest export. I think entertainment is our biggest export to other countries.
Yeah, I would buy that. Yeah, I would buy that. Yeah.
Democracy.
Yeah. So Noel, you think these assassination attempts were staged, fake attempts? Yeah. Go Blue Forever says Butler now looks like something else entirely. Yeah. Butler was staged.
What was the guy's name that got killed at that event? Comator or something like that? The firefighter. Have you gone down that rabbit hole yet?
No. Comatori.
Yeah.
No, I haven't.
Okay, that's a rabbit hole you should go down.
I'm so sick of being disappointed. Like I mean, Natalie and I were talking.
Every time you get on a rabbit hole, there's a gopher.
Yeah. Natalie and I were talking this morning about Henry David Thoreau, and what a con job that was. So we're told that like Henry David Thoreau was this existentialist, you know, and he just was like wanted to separate himself from society in a way as a reflective writer, to go up to Walden Pond and to eschew society, right? And so many young men, I think, in the Jack Kerouac vein, like look up to the idea of Henry David Thoreau going off to Walden Pond. But it was all a lie. Like every day he would go back into town and he had his mom doing his laundry for him. Fact. Like it's all built on a house of lies. You're supposed to read Henry David Thoreau in school and to understand, like, oh, this is a person who had like an existential crisis and wanted to like separate himself from society. So he goes to Walden Pond, and it's all a lie. Everything we've been told is a lie. Everything. Just
so you don't think Cheney was actually accidentally shot in the face? You think that was planned?
Cheney? Or that Cheney accidentally shot the other guy in the face?
Or shot a guy.
Okay. I'm sorry. I thought he was the one who got shot. Okay.
No, he shot the other guy, governor, or I forget his name. I forget who he shot in the face, but he was a really good duck hunter, actually, the guy he shot in the face. My God,
apparently Cheney not so much.
Yeah.
What's this thing do?
Yeah, YouTube
that's the trigger.
influencers. That's another thing. Like, you still believe it? You know, all these people that are taking money from Corey Comparatori. Yeah, that's right. Thank you. CPR dummy. All staged events, you know. I live in Pennsylvania, and 5 of us saw a UFO back in the 1980s. Triangular shaped and propulsion system, super quiet and super fast. Wow, that's cool. Thank you, Mike, for that. One of my favorite stories. You ever read the Allagash Lake abduction story, Mike? Have you ever heard? You know that story? That's a fascinating story. Thank you, G. Fontes. Appreciate that. Not at all. We're vehemently anti-war and pro-peace on this channel. And I think what we try to do on this channel is call out all of this, like Laura Loomer saying, prepare for a massive attack that's about to happen. Prepare for...
And BB posted that picture of him sitting down with the head of Mossad. Like that wasn't some kind of warning.
Right. Yeah. Like to call out these things so that we don't have people dying, people falling for it, people falling for, you know, all of these false flags.
October 7th.
Yeah. People falling for another October 7th. Dude, you're getting Adele. Just trying to see here. What is the truth? That's a great question. Well, and if you come from like sort of the David Icke perspective, where you see like, oh, we're like living in this simulation and we're being played, and it's all part of a broader plan, then it's you know, everything starts to make a little bit more sense. It also makes you not want to be around other people. You're like, man.
Well, that's the thing. Like that's what got me going on all this. And now I look at everything through the same lens. It's like when they would tell you something and none of the evidence made sense of what they were saying. And then you would listen to the quote unquote conspiracy theorists and it made sense based on the evidence. And so it's like, then you start to look through at everything through that lens and realize like everything is fake. Like they don't tell the truth about anything.
Go back to a Leave It the Beaver time. That's right, Kara.
Yeah.
Father knows best.
Have you ever gone down the Leave It to Beaver rabbit hole?
Stop it.
I'm just kidding.
Stay out of rabbit holes, dude. You spend your time, too much time in holes, man.
That whole Jerry Mathers guy, I'm telling you.
Stay out of that beaver. Oh, man. All right, I should probably wrap it up. Oh, man. Thank you, 7 Rank Speece, G Fontes. I love all you guys. Oh, man. Bibby is at a conference right now to false flag. Wouldn't doubt it. I would love it. I'd love it if we could, you know, prevent these things. Oh, I'm reading The Tower of Basel right now. That's going to be my vacation book in a few weeks. I just picked it up. For sure. Let's see how fast BTC vertical, how fast we can expose the next false flag. People stop moving to Florida.
Yes.
7 Rank Species says the U.S. government will take back the gold again from the population. It's impossible. It's impossible.
Yeah, what gold at this point?
G. Fontes, I've been watching since before COVID almost every day. Something's different. I care about your family. I have a personal stake in this. Well, the world is different. Like, you know, you might say it's when we call out the fact that war is coming to Iran, well, that's fear porn. Okay. And then a few nights later, war comes to Iran. That's not being fearful. That's calling out what's unfolding before us. Like making sure that people are aware of what's coming. I mean, the US dollar, like you want to talk about the things that are on the table right now? Like we are moving to a full surveillance state. That's coming. And no one's stopping it. And just look at the moves that Congress is making right now. That's coming. The US dollar collapse is coming. $39 trillion in debt. Like listen to any smart economist who knows is worth their weight in salt, or, you know, was that the term? Worth their weight in
gold or worth a salt?
Worth a salt.
It's worth your weight in gold or worth a salt. Yeah.
These are the things that I'm deeply concerned about. I'm not a fearful person. Like people ask me all the time, like, how do you study all the things, these horrible things that are happening in the world and stay positive? You know, it's like, well, I've got to protect my family. So that's my main focus. So my goal with this show is to empower you. So to see all of these things that they're doing to us, but not to follow a man, like not to fall in love with Donald Trump as like this icon, not to fall in love with anybody. A cult of personality, but to protect your family and to see the BS that they're pushing on us. Like telling us that there was going to be a massive terror attack at the UFC fight. Right. But then what's actually happening behind that headline? Well, what's actually happening is the extension of the FISA carve out to spy on Americans. Like my job is to call this shit out so you don't fall for it. Like I worked in mainstream media. I worked at Fox News for a decade. Like, so now I'm at the gym and Fox News is on at the gym and I see it and I see exactly the narratives that they're pushing on people. So these 75-year-olds who watch Fox News every day are being spoon-fed this narrative and they don't get it. To see through it. So when they want to push this narrative that Putin's about to invade Europe, no, he's not. Like, don't fall for it. Don't fall for that fear. Like, Europe is trying to scare everyone across the world right now, and specifically Europeans, that like Putin's about to invade Europe. Yeah, sure. No, he's not. No, he's not. Iran's about to attack the United States. Iran tried to assassinate President Trump. No, they didn't. Zero evidence of that. Fully manufactured. Don't fall for it. Don't fall for that fear. Iran's not going to try to bomb the United States. Who bombed Iran? Oh, we did. And by the way, we called it out. So, same thing we called out in Syria. And what happened to Syria? So now that country's in ruins. So just don't fall for it. Our goal here is to help navigate this propaganda because, again, I used to work on the inside of it. I know how these narratives are spun. And the people that we have on the show also, in many ways, worked inside the belly of the beast and who've seen it in action. And so, you know, it's easier to call it out once you can see how it's being constructed. So all I'm saying now as you prepare to head into the midterm elections, prepare. Prepare for the fear. Prepare for the culture wars. Prepare for this idea that we're going to be, I don't know, attacked by Iranians or some other major threat in the next 90 days, 60 days before the midterm elections. There will be false flag attempts on the United States in order to scare you. Why? Because Democrats and Republicans are like this. There's no difference. And they want a surveillance state. They want control. They want to know everything about you and control everything that you're doing. That's it. That's at the heart of it. They want total control. So if you're aware of that, then you don't have to fall for it. At least that's my mission on this show, to kind of help people see that. And I don't have all the answers, but I like to speak with people and read read the works of people who have seen it and can share their thoughts on this show. I'm no better than anybody. I just want to be asking questions because, look, we've all been lied to for so many years. Like, it's time for us to wake up. It's time for us to stop being lied to by these people and stop falling for it. Like the J.D. Vance thing today. Here's a perfect example, right? Like, so many people are like excited online. You're like, J.D. Vance, it's great. He's calling out Israel. Don't fall for it. Don't fall for it. Like, really? There's like multiple sound bites of J.D. Vance being shared all over social media. Like, he's calling out Israel. He's telling Israel to sit down, bitch. Do you buy that? Right. Same guy that's also taking millions of dollars from Peter Thiel and the folks from Palantir and Alex Karp and all of those guys. Okay. Now, like, now he's our guy. So it's all about this positioning. It's all theater. Just don't fall for it. Don't fall for it. That's all I ask as we head into the weekend, everyone. I love all of you. Thank you guys so much for being with us here on this Thursday. And hey, even if you call me a moron, I still love you because I've got thick skin and I know myself and I know my family. And yeah, I can be a moron sometimes. I can be a dick. I can be an asshole. I can be kind. But yeah, I can be a Philly asshole from time to time because I don't suffer fools. I can't stand, it really bothers. I can't stand willfully ignorant people. I don't mind ignorant people. Like, we all know a lot of dumb people, right? Like, okay. But like, when someone's like intentionally ignorant and they're doing it on purpose, that's when I can't stand those people. That bothers me. That rubs me the wrong way. Anyway. That's my Philly passive aggressiveness coming out in me. I apologize. Hey, thanks for dialing us up today on this Thursday. Had a great week with all of you. Thank you guys so much. Natalie will be back. She's traveling with the kids right now, and we'll be back early next week for another show. And our live show, we'll have tons of content for you throughout the weekend, as always. So thank you guys so much. Have a great night. Go Phillies. Here in about 40 minutes. Beat the Mets. Beat the Mets. Actually, can I tell you a quick story? I'll just tell you a quick story. I met the head of the NYPD Cyber Crimes Division and in New York City one time, and I asked him, because as a Phillies fan, I love this. I have told this story before, but I always like to bring it up, especially as it involves the Mets. And I asked him, I said, is there like any kind of, when you're arresting these pedophiles, because they go after pedophiles, that's what they do in the like children's crimes and cyber crimes division when they arrest these pedophiles. I said, is there any like common denominator? Like, they're like overwhelmingly in the New York area, like, are they always something? Are they like tall, whatever, are they 32 years old, whatever? And he said, yeah, common denominator. He goes, no joke. And he's like, I'm not kidding you. This is from the head of the NYPD Cyber Crimes Division. He said, they're almost always they're always Mets fans. I just thought that was it's a data point. It's a data point about Mets fans. I get it. I understand. So thanks everyone. Have a great night, and we'll see you back here on Tuesday. Go Phillies.